Welcome back, Silver Bull fans. Welcome back to Silver Bull channel. Well, America seems to have been obsessed with the Middle East and Iran and Syria. Obviously, a lot of the oil comes from the Middle East, but I wonder whether they've dropped the ball by just concentrating on the Middle East. They've got troops in Afghanistan, which is over here, of course, Iraq. And they're hankering to get into Syria. I don't know why. Let the people decide there. Maybe it all might have to do with their ally in Israel here wanting to redraw the map around it. But perhaps what they really should have been concentrating on is this place over here. And why is this strategically important? Well, North Korea happens to be very close to Japan and China. And a conflict here would certainly throw a cat amongst the pigeons. See, North Korea, by the looks of it, has been allowed. You know, they crap on that Iran can't have nuclear arms and we'll do this or we'll do that. And all the time, it seems North Korea already done a couple nuclear tests and now they're testing missiles with the view of them being intercontinental ballistic missiles. Now, an ICBM, for some of my younger audience, during the 80s, we certainly all knew what an ICBM was, an intercontinental ballistic missile. Essentially, it's a rocket. It'll shoot up into space, go across the other side of the world, and drop anywhere from 30 to 60 warheads on different targets. And, just one ICBM can kill millions, if not hundreds of millions of people. So, very dangerous things. The advantage in the 80s was that with Russia and the U.S., they had about 30 minutes from launch time to impact on the ground, which, supposedly gave them enough time to detect it and then launch their own missiles. Allowing for the MAD system, called MAD because it was mad, but MAD stood for Mutually Assured Destruction. So your missiles would cross in the air and you'd both be completely destroyed. Kennedy famously said it was, a victory in a nuclear age would be ashes in your mouth. In other words, there was no real victory in a nuclear conflict. And that's why Cuba was such a big deal for America in the 60s, because by Russia stationing its missiles in Cuba, instead of being half an hour, it dropped down to something like 8 minutes or something. So the Americans were afraid they wouldn't have been able to respond in time, and Russia would have had to drop on them. Hence why they were willing to go to the verge of nuclear war to get those missiles out of Cuba. And there were a lot of backdoor deals, some that we know about. The US moved its missiles out of Turkey, and there may have been others that we didn't know about. Perhaps that they wouldn't overthrow Fidel Castro or the communist regime, which America has kept to. They haven't. Although they still, American citizens still can't go to Cuba, which is a ridiculous scenario. I mean, how can you call yourself the land of the free when you're not permitted to go to certain countries in the world by your own government? Your own government says you can't go there. That's not freedom. Anyhow, the problem with North Korea, if it does get these long-range missiles up and running with multiple warheads, is the fact that the North Korean regime has very much been a country that does whatever it wants. An example of this is when they tried to import vast amounts of heroin into Australia. You know, not by half, they brought a whole freighter over to try and dump heroin in Australia and make some foreign currency reserves for their current country. So, Australia intercepted the boat and actually later blew it up for a demonstration for North Korea, just to let them know that in no uncertain terms Australia was not happy with this. But the other big problem we have is we don't have this half-hour boundary. Pyongyang and Seoul are very close to each other, and it may not even be a missile they launched. The North Koreans allegedly have built hundreds of tunnels under the borders, and they've done all sorts of things like kidnap foreign citizens from Japan and Korea, and one would think that maybe if they've already done a couple nuclear tests, that they may even have a suitcase nuke all ready to go in South Korea. And you can understand why the South Koreans are freaking out about it when you've got a leader of a country who's more seen as a messiah. It's almost a religion in North Korea. Half the population starves or is in slave labour camps, and the elites in the country all worship their leader. It's a cult almost, and you only had to see the death of the last leader and see how many people were crying, some of it real, some of it staged, that had gone and died. But, if you want to talk about freedom, the index rating of freedom, North Korea would probably be the lowest country on that rating. Just very extremely oppressive regime. And basically, a totally militarist regime. The military is more important than anything else, and people starve, too bad, too sad, so long as the military is looked after, because they're basically in a perpetual state of war. North Korea still is still at war with South Korea. There's been an armistice, but there's never been a formal peace treaty. And now, what's the options? What's the solutions? Well, the Japanese, although they have a modern and large military by world standards, really can't get involved because China wouldn't accept that. Same with the U.S. And the Chinese don't seem to have enough control over North Korea. They're their closest allies, but they don't control the country. So, are there any solutions? I mean, one radical solution might be, and this seems like this is off the wall sort of thing. The leaders of North Korea basically set themselves up as a monarchy, a dynasty anyhow, from father to son to father to son. A radical deal would be, well, how about we declare Kim Jong-un, or whatever his name is, Emperor of the Korean Peninsula, so he acts as any other emperor does, but we have the South Korean government actually run Korea. So you set up so you have two forms of government. One country, but you have your parliament, your democratic parliament, like everywhere else, with your monarchy. Um, so you have a united Korea, and you unite it by combining those two things. A bit like other things, the United Kingdom, where they got rid of the Scottish Parliament, but that was after a Scottish king took over the throne of England and united them all. So there are historical precedents in the past where that has occurred. I mean, radical idea, but what else do you do? Do you just leave it as a ticking time bomb? With there's no way that the North Koreans are going to, they've established a dynasty, father to son to father to son. Now we're in the third generation. Doesn't look like changing. There's now a cult of leadership. Even if you were to kill them off and, let's say, decapitate the military in the country and bring freedom to it, you'd still have a huge problem of reindustrializing North Korea and dealing with this cult that exists there. I mean, that's just not going to disappear overnight. So you'd have massive problems when you reunite the two Koreas. And I just think the US, with its obsession with the Middle East, has, missed big time. Perhaps something that's even more important, what's happening in North Korea. They say, oh, we don't want nuclear weapons to spread. Well, gee, someone dropped the ball there, didn't they? And the other thing is the North Koreans have been shown for the right money, they're more than happy to export their weapons technology. So if they do have ICBMs, you can be assured that they'll be happy to export them to Iran. So, you want to stop Iran getting nuclear weapons, supposedly, that's a huge important thing, then, you've probably already missed the boat, because if North Korea gets them, Iran can buy them. So, by concentrating on the Middle East, I often wonder whether America hasn't missed the ball and allowed something far more dangerous to occur. But at the end of the day, maybe the US shouldn't be the world policeman anyhow. And maybe it'll all become irrelevant when Europe implodes again, as it has a history of doing over and over and over again. The Euro Union, dumping a bunch of people in together and trying to create one country out of it is just a joke. It's not going to work. Greece and Spain, I mean, how much austerity do they have to get before they finally say enough's enough? 50% unemployment among young people. What hope is there for a country when young people can't even, have a job? Just my thoughts. So feel free to say your thoughts in regards to it. Has America missed the ball? Should we even be worried about Syria? Let them have their civil war. Let them sort it out. Not our job to sort out their civil war. Not our job to get involved in it. There's a far greater danger sitting here in North Korea, next to Japan, next to China, even Russia. Certainly for Australia, we're down here, it's more of a potential hazard to us in the Middle East. I mean, Afghanistan ain't going to attack Australia anytime soon. whereas North Korea, they get ballistic missiles. Australia could be well within range. That, in fact, Australia will probably be in range long before the US is in range, excluding Alaska. I mean, Alaska's obviously probably closer to North Korea. Let's go down here. About the same, similar, but certainly continental USA is further away than Northern Australia is from Korea, North Korea. So, just my thoughts. Feel free to comment below.